Hello everyone, welcome to this video. And I know you're all been thinking, what is this, Harriet? You're doing a guide? Well, I have to admit that I was a bit harsh on last time that the devs implemented this type of mechanic, they're the Defy, and I never presented any runs. I never presented any tips, and I felt that I did the community dirty, even though there are many better guides out there. But I just want to make a contribution because this time I'm gonna man up. So currently, Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia has this event called the Crevasse. The Crevasse is a set of challenges, and you need to attain the high score of 425 to get all of your rewards. Now, if you're not able to get most of the rewards, that's fine because I think from 400 to 425, they're just tickets. You're not really missing out, and the important rewards are below 400. So you could manage to do a bunch of clears. So let's break down my runs, what I did for the Crevasse. So just make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon if you want more Dissidia videos, or if you just want more of my slice of life content. Now let's go in right into the first Crevasse, Hollow Depths. So Hollow Depths, you got an enemy. This is the Orod Camilo or the Katobel Pass. Note that this is just a level 150. If you're a new player, it is under the Cosmos difficulty. And I think the code that I've used here is triple yellow and triple short swords. And this would and my example run here is Ramza, Dash, and Lightning. For a total 24 points, you can run. This is a level 150 quest, so I think it would be easy if you have a character fully geared up. Since a Cosmos difficulty isn't supposed to be difficult right now. In fact, it's even phased out in Opera Omnia. Now we go into the next fight, which is the Crevasse 2. And this one has some mechanics that you need to be aware of. First of all, this is the Count Steam. Count Steam has a mechanic. Let's scroll down. Where is it? Counter Firaga. Yeah. Counter Firaga. It removes all of the target's buffs, even your silver frames. And yeah, it this only occurs if you count with if you attack the Count's team, the boss, with a melee attack. So you're highly recommended to use magic units. And the code that I use here is I three times three black and times three special weapons. And the units that I've used here are Golbeza. Let me quest overview. Yeah, the units that I've used here are Golbeza, Kefka, and Sis. Sis, you just have her for the delay. To be honest, even though she's melee and she gets dispelled a lot in my, she got dispelled a lot on my run with the delays that Sis provides. It's fine, and it's also under chaos difficulty. So one quick burst phase from either. Actually, I prefer Golbeza burst phase because the burst effect is a freeze aura, and Golbeza does a lot of damage. And Kefka is there for mitigating, preventing any HP attacks. Multi slash does hurt a lot, and Kefka is there to stop those accidental HP attacks that can KO one of your party members. Also, I put Sis here because of the her follow up, the Dark Tornado. Keep in mind it doesn't proc during the burst effect. I mean on the burst phase. But yes, this is my card for Hollow Depths Part 2, Crevasse 2. Now we go right into Crevasse 3. This is a level 200 quest, meaning it's Lupenia. And this is where things can get really, really wrong from the get go. Because here, today, we are living in the Shinryu era. And that's where we take our time to do our thing. And that is to charge our force gauge. Well, Lupenia has a countdown orb. And that countdown orb is going to tick down and is about to knock out or kill your party when it reaches 0. So you need to be careful when you're charging your force ability. So on Crevasse 3, you're facing 2 Tiamats. They are from the Tancred raid, I think, or the Tancred event, and they are immune to the freeze status. They are able to inflict heat, which is an HP poison, and they do not usually do an HP attack. Jet Burst is a group magic attack. Even the Jet Burst Plus is a group magic attack, and it's a guaranteed hit. So for Tiamat, it doesn't knock out your party. Keep in mind. So the HP attack that it has are only a generic magic HP attack and massive strike, so that's fine. And all it does is debuff your party. And they have some quirky effects like reduce HP damage taken by 100%. This is if the recast gauge is up. It cannot lose its turn, so it cannot be delayed. It can be delayed by Quistes if you have her. That's a very, very helpful tip. And became immune to a certain amount of HP damage. Party becomes immune to a certain amount of HP damage. This party being stated here is the enemy party. It also cuts in turn order and yeah, and typical stat bumps every time the bosses reach a certain HP threshold. So what did I bring here on Crevasse 3 is a triple tank team. So my code is 1 green, 2 black, and 3 broadswords. So that is Gladiolus, Zac, and Celeste. With the Lupenia Orb as 1. The first Lupenia Orb. So the first Lupenia Orb, I apologize if we can see it on the quest overview. So the first Lupenia Orb is count target takes melee brave damage, count target takes magic brave damage, plus 2, limit 15. So since you have Celeste who does her trap damage and Gladiolus who does counter attacks, you can have a 100% uptime on the orb. And that's and just to be sure that you healed up every time you take hit damage, Zac's LD has healing overflow, and also to prevent knockdowns from your party, you can use, if you have Zac's burst, extremely helpful. Yeah, so that's my party. I recommend using a counter tank here. You could bring triple black here if you didn't use triple black on the first on the second crevasse, and you could bring Oron here. I think it's just redundant. I would just bring another person that can do the same thing, and that would be Celeste. She taunts, Gladiolus will protect, and Zac with the burst effect up, easy survivability. Off we go on Crevasse 4. The opponents are the whale zombies. So, whale zombies, they got venom breath. It knocks out all enemies. Guaranteed hit, so can't dodge it. So if you are going to you're going to rush down this boss, I suggest you rush down this boss very, very quickly. It cancels below 80%, and the orb triggers again or shows up again when the whale zombie HP falls below 50%. So the party that I've used here, and let's check the code first, is what's that? This is the code 3. I use player loses HP from enemy attack. Players uses ability transform from HP attack. So yeah. When you mean player lose HP from enemy attack, you have to get hit. Okay? Or by player ability. So Arden works fine here. But since this event is geared up to Arden, I just use him on a higher stage. But if you have a unit like Lyud, for example, that decreases his HP every time on using one of his abilities, that increases the orb count. Also, if you're using an ability from a transferred HP attack, I don't think HP attack plus 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 counts. I may be wrong, but if you have someone like Renoa with her Angel Wing HP attack or Ultima, that counts as a plus 6 on the orb. So, player action minus 2, count target minus 2. The cards that I use here, and this is very meticulous on the lineup. The cards I use here is 1 yellow, 2 green, and 2 short swords. So the 2 short swords here is Gabrant and Bartz. And the Bartz is a yellow crystal, Gabrant and Ultimisia are green crystals. I have all of them greened, so this may not be beginner friendly for a team. And what I did here was, instead of playing with the mechanics, I use a Sid Rain Skull, preferably on Ultimisia, to launch the whale zombies before they get that aura, because when they reach a certain HP they will become unlaunchable. So when I use the launch mechanics, it increases your summon gauge. That's where I burst them, so I can summon from there. That's where I burst them down to below 80% to cancel the orb. That way, after the summon phase, I will use all of my burst plus abilities, the burst finishers, and whale them towards below 50%. And that's where I preferably use Ultimisia to burst those units down. Hopefully by that time the force gauge is up. So the only force user that I have here is Gabrant, and that was quick enough to defeat the whale zombies. But even without force, it is doable. You just have to know your cards right, you know. So yeah, I use Ultimisia. This is a zero boss turn run. I rush them down, use Sorcerer's Heart to remove their turns, and also I think I equipped an Ultima weapon on Ultimisia for this, and that yielded me 56 points. Onward to the real boss fight here, the Dullahan. So the Dullahan is very annoying because at the start of the turn, it will use Absolute Zero, and it removes 1 buff from each enemy, and it inflicts Grave Curse on all targets. This is an HP poison again. Also, on the next turn, it will recover from break, and it will use something called Northern Cross, and that will freeze you until Dullahan's next turn. When I say freeze, it's not like the Golbez freeze or the Setzer freeze. No, it will freeze you like how Shiva freezes the party, and then you can only move after her next turn. That's what the Dullahan does. And since this is again Lupenia, I'll show you again. So count target action, it has 2. Player action minus 2. So if you did the Northern Cross, if you succumb to the Northern Cross debuff, you will really take that orb out. So the card that I use is 2, inflicting break on count target, and count target takes HP damage 7 or more times in 1 turn. And something that I quite found interesting is on this one is on part 5 is I never let the Dullahan get a turn. They may not be they cannot be delayed, but you have to use a Quista Skull if you want to zero turn this. And then you need to burst them down on a summon phase. So the cards that I use is one black, two reds, one gun, two staff users, and the orb that I've showed you. So the force break mechanics, it is covered by King, and the target taking HP damage 7 turns consecutively, it can be done by Papalimo. Note that I gave Papalimo the ultimate weapon, so I kept Aerith with the force weapon, King with an EX weapon because I don't have an ultimate weapon for King. And yeah, also I really suggest if you have Aerith's FR ability to burn down the boss faster, it is I highly suggested it. Also, if you plan on bringing Raijin Call, I don't think that would work because the boss dispels itself and then casts what is that? Absolute Zero. So yeah, pretty tough fight. It's Lupenia, so you have to be careful if you're trying to force charge with Arid. I highly suggest not doing it, and just charge the force meter in the normal way. And if you want to spam moves with Papalimo because it does help the orb count. And if it breaks, it's a plus. So yeah, onward to Crevasse 6. So Tenacious Z, this is the Crevasse Defender Z. They are not. It's not really a hard fight. It's just more of a tedious fight. But since this is now a Shinryu because it's level 100, you can now abuse Force Chargers. And the Force Charger that I used here was Luna Freya. And then I used Core and I used Arden. And I never gave them a lot of turn. And if we went go back to our overview, let's see here. It's one sword, one staff, one special weapon user. So the special weapon user here is Core, and that is where I got annoyed with Core being a special weapon user, even though he's a short sword user. It just yeah, it kind of messed up. Who am I gonna use? I got confused. But what Core is using? Yeah, two yellows. You can place Arden and Luna Freya here. You can cancel the sword and just retain the two yellow crystals. Replace Arden with Tifa, and it's the same result. So the Lupenia Orb, the Shinryu mechanic I use, it doesn't matter. One is cancel the force time with melee. One is cancel the force time with magic. It didn't matter to me. I think two is cancel force time with melee, and I have Arden's FR. If you have Arden here or Tifa, they can burst down the boss. But if you allow the boss to charge and go into force time, they will regenerate health a lot, like 3%. So I highly recommend not giving them a turn. Next is Crevasse Hollow Depth 7. Renoa, Cloud of Darkness, Gallup. So this is a 3 green crystals, 1 broadsword user, and 2 special weapon user. This is obviously Renoa and Cloud of Darkness. And I think the enemies here are the Death Gaze. So the Death Gaze have if you're not careful, can really be deadly. But with this guide, I will give you the tips, the cheese on dealing with the Death Gaze. First of all, you need these skulls: Rydia, Kader, or Setzer. Those three: Rydia, Kader, or Setzer. The Death Gaze cannot be launched, so Sid Reigns, I'm not going to. You're not going to go in there. So that's why Kader or or Setzer, because they freeze the bravery gain of the Death Gazes. If you have Arciela, it's also fine. Next, Galoob is the MVP here. because at a certain threshold, the death gazes will do a follow-up attack if they cast a Roga. Where is that? Banishing Gaze, yeah. If they cast a Roga, Banishing Gaze, they will follow up attack with Rip Plus. Eroga and Vanishing Gaze are magic attacks, so Galoob has a 50-50 chance of dodging them. However, Rip Plus isn't guaranteed attack and it's melee, so Galoob will dodge the follow-up attack. The lock mechanics aren't as helpful here because these death gazes will do a random banishing gaze every threshold, and that is something Galoob can cover. So Galoob can evade your Rip Plus. Rip Plus won't battery before the attack because you have an RCL call, a Cater call, or a Setzer call. And if you want to be certain or be really safe, you have a Rydia call on standby just to evade Rip Plus. So yeah, those are the calls that you need for this event. For the lineup, I've used Renoa, Cloud of Darkness, and Galoob. So typical Renoa fashion, charge the FR gauge normally here because you don't have a charger. So we charge it normally. Luna Freya call on Renoa, another thing. So if you want a call setup, you can have Luna Freya with Renoa, Cloud of Darkness with Gator, Galoob, either Setzer or Arciela. It's your choice. Okay, so I use the Luna Freya call on Renoa, and she will FR. She will do her burst finisher. She will use Angel Wing 2 times and go to her finisher. I mean on her burst phase, and that's going to be an Ultima. So Renoa can burst the death gazes down until 30%, and that is where Galoob will start to shine because the force time will not dispel itself immediately after Renoa's burst phase. Why? Because upon certain threshold that you meet, the death gazes will do their random banishing gaze on the party, which Galoob can abuse, can counter loop. So while the death gazes are trying to hit your party, Galoob will cover and he will counter. And those counter are still under Renoa's force time. And we know how high Renoa charges her force time at an average 800% after a burst phase. So Galoob technically has 800% force time, 800% HP damage up every time it counters, and that will wear the boss down, if not kill them. So yeah, Galoob is really the MVP here at 800% HP reduction. The bosses will just counter the boss follow-up attacks. Also, at certain threshold, they will debuff you, and Galoob also counters them. Let's see other details. So the threshold here is following use when HP falls 80%, 50%, 30%, 20%. Reaper's Rise. So Reaper's Rise, Galoob can counter it. This is also the part that they will try to hit you, and this is the part that Galoob will counter the death gazes. So yeah, I highly suggest use Galoob here. So yeah, and that is my guide. That's my whole rundown on Crevasse Hollow Depths. If you want, I deeply apologize that I didn't do any Dare to Defy, so I'm just making up for it for the community. So this is your boy Harriet. Thank you. Have a good bye and a good night. Bye.